Hello everybody. So you might have been thinking, wow, this animal agriculture stuff sounds like pure evil. What if I just ethically source the animal products that I do consume and continue to consume them? I completely understand. However, I believe that this is flawed in theory and impractical in practice, and I'm about to explain why. So, my argument will be structured generally in two parts. One is going to be your life as an ethical omnivore, and the second is going to be the reality of these industries. So I want to talk about this first. If you have a deficiency in a particular nutrient, the solution to that is not to just start eating animal products, right? The solution to that is to eat more of that nutrient-rich foods within your diet. So, for example, if you have an iron deficiency, that doesn't mean, great, just eat animal products. Pay for animals to be abused, but that's another thing. Just eat beans or tofu or kale or something, and you should be eating those anyway because they're very healthy. Furthermore, with iron specifically, only like 15% of the iron that are in the average Westerner's diet is heme iron, which is the iron that comes from animal products. And that means that 85% is non-heme, which comes from plants. And furthermore, if you're deficient in iron specifically, you can just eat like basically any breakfast cereal. They're usually supplemented with a huge amount of the RDA of iron. For example, this cereal that I happen to have lying around in my apartment has, let me see, it has 60% of the RDA for iron in just 1 to 1.5 cups. So, eating ethically sourced animal products is far more difficult than veganism. So, you might be thinking, more difficult, doesn't it include foods that veganism doesn't, making it by definition less difficult? Well, let me take you through a hypothetical day of shopping as a vegan versus as this sort of ethical omnivore. As a vegan, go into the milk aisle, right? Milk section of a supermarket. Milk, milk, milk. I want some milk. Milk. Oh, soy milk. Almond milk. I don't know, oat milk, whatever you want. Take that, put in your cart. Done. As an omnivore, though, you walk into the milk section, right? You look at this milk. You're like, I want some cow's milk I want to drink breast milk from a cow. You look at the label. You see it says pasture raised or whatever. Then you pull out your phone. You look up the brand, right? What is this brand? I don't know. I can't think of a name right now. You look it up on your phone. You're standing in the middle of a supermarket for like 10-15 minutes. You're like, because you have to make sure that they're not lying to you. And I will get into that as well. Next up with eggs. Vegan eggs? Nope. Ethical omnivore. Eggs, this claims to be cage-free. Are they really cage-free? No. So you pull out your phone, you look at that as well. And then for meat, you can do all the research that you want for this one, but is the body of a definitely murdered animal really more ethical than this bag of lentils, for example? And one of the tenets of ethical omnivorism is massively cutting down on meat consumption. So you're conceding that eating meat, paying animals to be stabbed, is inherently wrong, and it's more difficult, and it's more expensive, and you're massively increasing your risk of chronic disease. So at that point, why not at least be vegetarian? And I'm going to get into the milk and eggs thing in a bit, so sit tight. Furthermore, if you're truly going to go with the ethical omnivore route, you're going to be entirely vegan except for at the grocery store when you're specifically buying your ethical eggs and dairy. So, for example, at restaurants, if their food is ethically sourced, they will tell you, because otherwise they're basically just throwing away money. And if they don't, there's a 99.99% chance that they just got it basically out of the pits of Hell Factory Farm. And even if they do tell you that it's ethically sourced, you're going to need to make sure that the ingredients that they use actually live up to your standards. And how are you going to do that?
Good evening, sir, madam. I will be your server today. My name is John. Can I get you started with some drinks?
Hi, that's great. Quick question though first. It says here that all of your ingredients are ethically sourced, free-range pasture raised. What's your supplier?
Come on, again. Let's just order something. I'm hungry.
Certainly, sir. I would be happy to answer that for you, but I have to go check. I will be right back.
5 minutes later.
Hello, sir. So, I got that supplier checked out for you, and it says here that our supplier is Ethical Concentration Camps Incorporated. So, I hope that answers your question. Are you ready to order?
Great, thank you so much. Can you come back to me in like 15, 20 minutes? I have to look it up on my phone here.
Fifteen minutes later.
Hi, John, was it? Yeah, sorry. This farm doesn't really fit my criteria of ethical. I saw video footage of it, and it's like 500 chickens cooped together in a pen that's the size of this table, and there's feces everywhere, and they also cut off the beaks of male chicks. Not male chicks, of female chicks, sorry. The male chicks go in the blender. So that's kind of disappointing to me. I mean, it does say right here, as you remember, it does say right here, right. You can read it, right? It says that it's ethically sourced. Yeah, it does. So I mean, sorry about that. So sorry. But we're gonna have to take our business elsewhere. Thanks for trying to help us out, though. Honey, get up. Wow, that was awkward. You really want to put yourself and the missus through that every single time you go out to eat at a restaurant? I know I wouldn't. Next example, at a friend's house. Even if the friend says, hey man, I got some free-range eggs for you, it's still going to have to live up to your standards, you know? And if they don't say that, then you're going to have to say no to whatever they're cooking for you, because, again, it's going to be made from ingredients that come out of the pits of hell factory farm. And if I offer you ice cream, you're going to have to say no. Finally, with food with animal products inside of it, like ready-made food with animal products inside of it, like, for example, a chicken ramen packet at the store, there's no way in hell that that's going to be ethically sourced, all right? Why would it be? It's a massive waste of money for the company. Another thing is that if you truly want to be an ethical omnivore, you have to completely throw meat out the window, because there is no ethical way to murder someone, a sentient being with a will to live, all right? Even if it's humane slaughter, whatever that means, all right? Maybe they have really, really sharp knives, or really nice state-of-the-art gas chambers. It's still horrifically cruel, and it's a massive rights violation in principle to just kill somebody without, I mean, even with their consent in some cases. But yeah, so assuming that milk and eggs can be ethically produced, if you're an ethical omnivore, just to recap, you're a vegetarian, you're entirely vegan everywhere except for the grocery store, specifically in the milk and eggs aisle. You're paying a massive markup on these products. You're having to do research on each specific company to make sure that they live up to your standards. You're significantly increasing your risk of chronic disease. And you're harming the environment arguably even more than if you just ate the animal products from the pits of hell factory farm. Finally, we have come to milk and eggs. So my arguments here are going to be in 4 parts. One is that you're trusting giant industries which abuse and exploit animals to sacrifice profits to do the right thing just out of the goodness of their hearts. 2 is that these labels don't mean what you think they do. 3 is that the milk and egg industries are the meat industries. And 4 is that you don't see what's going on behind the scenes. Horrific animal abuse is necessary to make these farms even slightly profitable. So, first point, you're trusting giant industries which abuse and exploit animals to sacrifice profits to do the right thing just out of the goodness of their hearts. So these industries are industries. They will do anything for profits. They will rely on technicalities, loopholes, they will cut corners, and they will straight up lie. They don't care about animals, they only care about profits, right? I'm sure you would agree when talking about blatant factory farms like the Pits of Hell factory farms that you see, and you're like, that's terrible, I need to buy free range instead. But you gotta understand, the only difference with these farms is that they want that free range grass fed label because they know that they can charge you more for it and you'll buy it. They will do exactly what they need to do and no more to get that label. And another thing, too, is that I'm going to touch on this more later, but the USDA doesn't really have a strict standard for most of these things that these farms claim. And if you think that these farms are under regular inspection by the government in order to make sure that they do actually abide to these definitions set by the USDA, then you're dreaming. All right? Basically, the only accountability that these farms have are to animal rights activists, which have to expose their actions illegally, and it's illegal because they and the government don't want what they're really doing to be exposed. Second point, these labels don't mean what you think that they do. A lot of these free-range or ethically sourced farms look exactly like factory farms, and that's because they are. The USDA requires that for chickens to be free-range, they must have access to the outdoors for 51% of their lives at least. First of all, 51% isn't that much, but what does access to the outdoors mean? Basically whatever the farm owners want it to. Very, very vague, very loose, and it does not mean that they have freedom, okay? It does not mean that they have to even be able to access the outdoors with their whole body. It does not even give them a minimum space requirement. The USDA actually also does not have any definition for humanely raised at all. They can just declare it to be so. Natural means that it contains no artificial ingredients or added colors, and it does not have anything to do with animal welfare. Naturally raised also does not have a definition. Organic means that the animals aren't allowed to be given antibiotics, which makes it arguably even less ethical than the Pits of Hell factory farm, because if an animal is sick, there's nothing that anybody can do about it because they need that organic label. I actually couldn't find an official USDA definition for pasture-raised cows. Some definitions I found online are basically a rephrasing of the free-range definition, which also isn't really a definition. And I found another one, and I quote, "At least some portion of their lives on pasture or with access to a pasture, not continually confined outdoors, to qualify as pasture-raised." Some portion of their lives. Does that mean anything to you? Because it doesn't mean anything to me. Even if they are being truthful about their free-range or grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised, whatever, and even if it does mean what you think it means, this has basically no effect on the animal's treatment, right? You can have 100,000 cows being abused and enslaved in a CAFO feedlot. If you feed them at least 51% grass, it's grass-fed. You can still abuse animals which are given access to the outdoors. Access to the outdoors. And they do. Third point, and this is going to be short, the milk and egg industries are the beef and chicken industries. They are the meat industries, that is. Right? All of the animals in the milk and egg industries are taken to be slaughtered in the meat industries, okay? I need you to understand this. All of them. So, they're the same industry. If you pay for milk and eggs, doesn't matter who you're paying, you're still funding the death of animals. You're still funding the murder of animals, I should say. All of them, right? Except for the ones who die on the farms. And finally, you don't see what's going on behind the scenes. Horrific animal abuse is necessary to make these farms even slightly profitable. And I have 5 subpoints for this one. That's right. We have subpoints within subpoints within subpoints. So they are: first, you don't have infinite farmland. Second, bulls and roosters do not produce milk or eggs. Third, cows only produce milk when they're pregnant or have given birth. Fourth, collecting eggs from chickens does in fact harm them. And fifth, you want your animals to be exploitable as long as possible in their lifespan. So, first 2 points, you do not have infinite farmland, and bulls and roosters do not produce milk or eggs. So, 50% of animals, or with sex sperm, at least 10% of cows and chickens will be male. If they live on these dream farms with these pastures in free range, that is a lot of wasted pasture. And that means it's a lot of wasted money as well. So, what do farm owners do? They chuck them into blenders, or they bolt gun them in the skull, shoot them, and throw them into dumpsters. Yes, really, this is what you don't see on your pasture-raised free range. It's what you can never see. For the bull sperm harvesting stuff, because they do need to have sperm from bulls, some sperm from bulls, they use electroejaculators, which is rape. They basically stick dildos into bull anuses and electrocute them through their ass until they ejaculate. I mean, straight up rape. So, next, cows only produce milk when they're pregnant or have just given birth. So, for cows to get pregnant, guess what farmers do? If you said rape again, you would be correct. And once they've given birth, the milk that would be going to the calves goes to you in order to raise your cholesterol. So, they steal the calves from the mothers and they separate them, and they would kill the calf if it's male, and of course the mother cries out for his calf, and after having had this done to them multiple times, the mother will attempt to hide the calf from the farmers. I mean, I'm honestly losing track of the amount of animal rights violations here and cruelty, but it's ethical because it's free range, right? Next, intentionally breeding chickens to lay shit tons of eggs and for them to be massive greatly harms them. You'll see these stories everywhere, like chickens like literally break their legs or can't walk around just because they're too heavy for it. And not letting chickens consume their own wasted, unfertilized eggs gives them nutrient deficiencies as well. Finally, you want your animals to be exploitable as long as possible. First of all, if I haven't made this clear already, it is morally wrong to exploit animals just based off of principle. But also, these animals won't lay eggs or produce milk or be pregnant for their entire natural lifespan. So, on your ideal utopian farm, which doesn't exist, they would just let them hang out anyway in these wide open pastures with the male cows and the male chickens and waste tons of money, but nope, they just kill them. Again, dairy and egg industries are the meat industry. If a farm did not commit the atrocities which I have laid out, they would be suffering massive financial losses. Alright, forget about profits. My cat agrees with me. On top of that, there's other cruelties that happen in these industries which you don't see. That includes dehorning, castration, without anesthetics, of course, because, it costs money for anesthetics. You can't have anything cost more money than it needs to. Who cares about the animal's well-being or their rights anyway, right? Even if they had anesthetics. Dehorning, castration, cutting off tails, cutting off the beaks of chickens, again without any painkillers. Even branding is animal cruelty and an animal rights violation. So listen, in conclusion, if you want to be an ethical omnivore, you're admitting that animals have inherent rights, which should not be violated, and you're caring about their well-being, and you're not getting the benefits that veganism has, and you're not even necessarily reducing their suffering to a significant amount, and you're putting way more effort into this than vegans are. You can get all the nutrients you want from a vegan diet. It's not as hard as people think it is. If you want to reduce the suffering and death of animals, just go vegan.